Hello everyone and welcome back to the Who Knew podcast.
Wait, shit,
I am
that's
your
the
host.
wrong name.
That's the joke, Saris.
It's
Yeah,
very funny.
I
10 out
am.
of 10.
Haha, ratio Josh Carr. I am your host Sean,
Why did
joined
you
as
start
always
with
by
that?
Saris.
No, you can't start beef with other podcasts. So let's not.
Yeah, I'm coming for all the podcasts. What's Crispy's podcast? I'm
Is
coming
that,
for you too.
Which one was that? Is that
Who knows,
Who's
is it?
There? I think it's Who's
Yeah,
There.
who's there? We're coming for you.
Yeah. See, I don't like starting
Yeah.
drama. Saris never gets into drama ever. No. If you're watching the podcast on YouTube, you'll know that I'm definitely shaking my head.
We are just kind of like a shit review to death.
We are, yeah.
You've even got like the Cyberman head now. I've got the funky lighting going on.
Yeah.
Just like we are just like
Which of us is
a
which?
bad review.
I guess I'm Matthew, right?
I feel like I suppose
Yeah, that makes sense.
because I'm a lot more tame on the Chibnall era than you as
See,
well.
Are we shit review of death, or are they shit wild in death? No, not even.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. We've got more diversity because
Disabled.
you being Welsh, me, and that.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, we represent different cultures.
Isn't Billy Garrett John like part Welsh though, or am I making that up?
I don't know.
Oh well.
Anyway, we have a jam-packed episode
do,
full of
yeah.
exciting things.
We really do. It's very exciting. I don't know what you want to start with. I think we're going to start with the most recent, I guess, Doctor Who project that's come out and kind of blown everyone away with its relative quality, I suppose. Doctor Who Redacted, the new Doctor Who audio series on BBC Sounds, which revolves around a group of, I guess, teenagers who have a podcast where they discuss one major conspiracy theory, that being of the blue box, aka.
I'm coming for them as well.
No, do you reckon we
Another
could
podcast to
collab?
come for.
Like, oh
yeah.
That'd be class. No. And yeah, basically the whole thing is like the narrative framing devices. They run a podcast and they discuss all the like Doctor conspiracy theories, which are actual episodes of the show. But people are forgetting that the Doctor even existed, and people who knew the Doctor are being erased or redacted, hence the title. And yeah, I recently just listened to it and really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I listened to it the other day for the first time. I deliberately held off because I think after Legends of the Sea Devils and that trailer, I kind of did want just a break from Doctor Who for a bit. I saw people speaking about it quite positively on Twitter. I was like, okay, I'll give this a bash. I'm somewhat intrigued. Listened to episode 1, thought it was alright. Midway through episode 2, I was completely hooked, and yeah, it's very well done.
Yeah, I was really surprised. There's a few things about it that surprised me, but yeah, I was in a similar boat to you in terms of reaction to it, because obviously, me being me, like, the Chibnall era doesn't exactly have the most positive taste in my mouth, and I knew it was, starring Jodie Whittaker, so it was kind of present day. I know it's not Chibnall Doctor Who, but it is like associated with it. So as a result,
it's
I
all
was kind of
era.
as a result, I was kind of like, I might not. But then, as I said, I saw people positively talking about it. I was like, yeah, why not? And you said, oh, we should do a podcast episode on it. So I was like, fair enough. I listened to it, and I was really pleasantly surprised by its quality. Honestly, I think I was saying to you before, it surprises me they didn't think of doing this sooner. Like, this specific idea. Like of a conspiracy theory podcast about like the Doctor.
Yeah, because it makes sense.
It makes complete sense.
I think if I was to compare it to anything, it's almost akin to that of Linda from Series 2. It's kind of just LGBT Linda.
Yeah, essentially. And I think Linda even gets a name drop in like one of the episodes.
Yeah, it does.
Are you from that mad Linda lot? And they're like, no, we're a decent, actual person. And it's like, yeah. So that's cool. I think something that I was glad of was, I was talking to you about this before we started recording. I was really worried the whole podcast bit was going to feel a bit dated and tacky and kind of
a bit
boomery and like, for lack of a better term, just outdated. Because like, I feel like when influencers tend to get put in traditional media, they feel really, really, I don't know what the word is, cringe? I think cringe is probably the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's a fair...
And tacky, like... I'm immediately brought to that Gabriella woman from Praxius who has like the travel vlog.
Right, yeah.
And like her friend dies and she's just like, anyway.
Yeah, because they always overdo it and it's like, it always comes across quite out of touch.
Yeah.
Something that I think made Redacted work as well as it did was just how good chemistry like everyone has with one another.
Yeah, and it all feels natural.
Like it does just feel like a group of friends.
Yeah, it doesn't feel forced. It feels really organic, which I was really pleased with, because I think that's one of my problems with television Doctor Who at the moment, to be honest, is sometimes the dynamics don't feel authentic. You can feel the hand of the author, so to speak.
Yeah, we're always told how much the characters care for one another.
Yeah,
but we never actually see it.
Yeah, we never just see the main characters of Doctor Who like hanging out, and that's not even just a Chibnall era exclusive thing. Like I reckon New Who could do with more of that in general, but obviously there is less of it in like Chibnall era, even as opposed to some other New Who counterparts. But with this, what I really liked about it was before you get into the whole mystery of it, like you get scenes of them just chilling and being friends and talking about this subject they're all interested in. And it just feels really organic, and that's
the thing. For something that's like 20 minutes, I think it's 20 minutes per episode, it has time to breathe.
Yeah. And I think for me...
And it's like, it's not scared to like focus on the characters.
Yeah. And I think for me, 20 minutes is about like the absolute perfect length for something like this per episode. Because I've said before, one of my main sort of struggles with Big Finish is I have quite a short attention span, and some of those can go on for quite a while. So
yeah,
I think 20 minutes an episode per week, I think it is, for me is like perfect.
Yeah. How many?
I think it's 10.
How many are there going to be in total? Okay.
Someone said 10, so they've got plenty of time to
that's a good number.
Flesh stuff out. And to be honest, like what I'm liking about it so far already is that it doesn't feel like it's introducing too much. Everything feels well paced and like just well done. And yeah, something else I was really worried about, again, something we mentioned before we started, was they obviously bring back some fan favourite characters in this little audio like adventure thing. And one of those characters was Rani Chandra. Now, for those of you who know me at all, you'll know I'm a massive Sarah Jane Adventures fan. I loved it as a kid. It was kind of my substitute for Doctor Who because, like, my family didn't like it besides, like, me. And they were all like, let's watch Britain's Got Talent in the evenings. And I was like, no. Hence my undying hatred for talent shows. Yeah. So I was really hyped, but nervous to see how they were going to handle Rani. And I think they handled her really well. Like, she feels like a natural fit for the story.
Yeah, and the thing is, she also just feels like she has just been like that is that character again. It doesn't feel like she's particularly changed that much as well. It does, as soon as she turned up, it then kind of felt like we're in a Sarah Jane Adventures story, if that makes sense.
It also didn't feel like she hadn't evolved at all. To a weird degree.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's enough. I think it's a difficult line to strike when you're bringing back older characters in like any franchise. You can either over-egg it and make them change so much to the point where they don't even feel like the same character anymore, or you could basically leave them exactly as they were when we last saw them, despite it being like 20, 30 years later, however long. Obviously less in Rani's case.
It was just like, it felt like a natural evolution.
Like the perfect middle, where she's a journalist now, she's writing articles for Time and The Guardian and all these other things.
Yeah.
And Vogue and whatever, but like at the same time she felt like her. And it was just, it was a really natural fit. And I thought she did a really good job. Obviously, we'd only heard a little bit from her, but I really like the idea of people who knew the Doctor's memories being wiped. I think that's a really clever... I think that's a really organic way of getting characters from the past into a story. Because, characters are being wiped who knew the Doctor. That's inevitably going to lead to some familiar faces being involved in this. So it makes total sense to me for those to be included. It's not like one of them just randomly teleports in and goes, "You missed me, right?"
What? That would be great. It's just Craig Owens.
Craig. Speaking of Craig, did you see James Corden was the 14th Doctor? According to Stephen Colbert.
No.
Can you imagine if that's true? It's not. Like, it's obviously Stephen Colbert doing a joke.
Yeah. Obviously, I did see people taking it seriously on Twitter, and I was like, obviously James Corden is not going to be the 14th Doctor. Come on, guys.
People have no awareness of jokes.
Just imagine if he was. Just imagine if Russell, he was another secret incarnation of the Doctor or something. It's like, here he is, the James Corden Doctor, leading the 60th anniversary.
What
I think I would just become an NMD.
Yeah,
that would be my NMD era.
Yeah. No, I'd probably agree. I would just be like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, back to Redacted, I guess. I just thought, since you brought up for Craig Owens, I was like,
yeah.
Just my mind jumped to it, but yeah.
I had forgotten about that, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say on it other than James Corden's not the 14th Doctor. Don't worry, chill. But yeah, Redacted, I really enjoyed it. There was more things I wanted to bring up now, but off the top of my head, I can't remember them. I thought, obviously, I can't speak for, the representation's quality in terms of like accuracy, but I thought the trans character, I can't remember her name.
Yeah, I'm not good with character names.
Felt really natural and really funny as well, and I really enjoyed her presence and how she was kind of like not really on board with everything, but at the same time like kind of taking it in her stride. She felt like a really natural person.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It's not like they didn't address it at all, but when they did, it was like it felt natural.
And it was that fear that I had. Not that I thought like it was going to be bad, but because it is the BBC, I just did worry it was going to feel like an old man writing young people.
Well, I think it was written by the people involved,
it was written by. I think it was written by a lot of them, which
Juno. Someone. I think her name was Juno.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that it feels organic, is all I can say. It didn't feel like it was trying too hard. Do you know what I mean? Like, it felt...
No, yeah.
Like, yeah, this makes sense. I know people like this in real life.
Yeah, that's what I liked about the whole thing. Like, I think just speaking purely, like, as a vibe, it just felt like mates doing a thing that they enjoy.
Yeah.
And then it also just happened to, like, get wrapped up in the universe of Doctor Who. And I really appreciated that.
It did kind of feel like if we were in the Doctor Who universe, this would kind of be what it was like. Like, functionally, like, it's very similar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like, they are essentially just fans.
Yeah, essentially.
Speaking about... Yeah, but, obviously from their perspective, it's like different conspiracy theories and stuff like that.
For us, it's a science fiction show, but the general idea is the same. So yeah, like, it really related to me just on that level as well. Like, as someone who does do videos and that sort of thing. Like, I've not had characters who felt more natural in that sense to me before, I don't think. Because as I've said, I normally find the whole, let's do internet influencer characters thing a bit cringe. But here it's like, this checks out. And I like how...
Yeah.
I like how it makes sense as well for, like, the past characters to be listening as well. Because Rani makes reference to, I've been listening to your podcast messages. You could do with better microphones. It's like, checks out. That's what a lot of people complain about, mic quality. That was the first comment I ever got, was someone saying how shit the mic quality was. But it turned out, he was a really nice guy in the end. There was just a level of authenticity and genuineness to it that I really liked. And, you can tell it's a story that they were passionate about telling, and I think it really comes across.
Because that's the thing, I think before going into it and reading about it, it was something that I kind of felt that I could maybe brush off and was like, I'll probably get to it eventually. Like, I was never... It was not something that I was ever, looking forward to. Like, I really need to, check this out. Yeah. But then, I think just listening to it, and it just captures that, essence of the show that I love, if that makes sense. And its characters, and just even the references and stuff like that. There's a lot of RTD references
I was going to say.
Around that time.
Part of me does believe the specific use of Russell T Davies era, events as references was deliberate, because it's like, what events in the Doctor Who universe do people remember? Like the RTD ones.
I think it's partly that, and also when you think of world invasion, Earth invasion stories, a lot of them do come from
in the modern era.
And I think we were speaking about before we started recording, this was written before series, I guess this what was that Dalek special as well,
Revolution,
with the drone Daleks. Yeah,
was it written before that?
I assume so, because they make references to... Yeah, this has been the pipeline for years, I'm sure. I remember reading 3 years ago or something.
I didn't know that, but if that is the case, I definitely did feel... I said to you before, it felt older for some reason. It felt... Because you get references to Ryan Sinclair and Graham O'Brien as well, having recently disappeared mysteriously. And for us, that happened about, 5 years ago? And obviously they've left, nearly 2 years ago. So for us... That was quite a while ago, so I think that's why it's kind of felt older, but it wasn't to its detriment. I did just notice, I wonder if this was written before Flux. But, yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw something, from this, and it was, 3 years ago or something, that this was in the works.
Interesting. Well, they've clearly spent like a lot of time on it. I think, as I said, it feels really natural. I'll say as well, I love how rebellious it felt as well, and how genuine it felt in that sense, because again, it was on the BBC, I wasn't sure how much they'd be able to get away with, but they just straight up call out Rupert Murdoch for like his control over the media and stuff, and I'm like, alright, you're doing good. Like,
I can get behind this.
I'm vibing with this, because I was sort of like, it's the BBC, is it going to feel genuine to how like young people talk on a podcast? But like, no.
Yeah, the BBC are weird, because like, at one point, they can come across like they're trying way too hard, and other times they'll just be like outright like right wing, and you're like, it's very hard to strike. Like, you never know what you're going to get with the BBC.
And in this case, like,
is this going to be really out of touch?
Rare instances of like not feeling out of touch or right wing.
I think it's because all the creators involved
are like relatively young.
This is very clearly their views, and they're just like it feels like they're just writing that in, you know.
Yeah.
It's an honest representation of the people.
What I really hope is that this is more of a sign of things to come with Russell. Obviously, I know they're not connected, but I really enjoyed seeing that element of rebelliousness again in Redacted, and I hope.
Yeah, well, I mean, Russell was always been like politically charged in his writing all throughout. Like, he literally blows up Downing Street.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, he literally has an alien 9/11 occur essentially. And then they're like, they're using a terror event to justify, violent action. It's like, I wonder what this is a commentary on, Russell. It's like, it's like I said, I hope we get more of that, and I think Redacted is a good. It's why I like political commentary in like science fiction, because it does it well.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel, forced in. But yeah, what else was there to say about it?
I think that's about it. I mean, we'll continue. We'll probably continue covering it like as it comes out.
Yeah, the thing is with it, obviously, there is only 2 episodes at the moment, so a lot of it is kind of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, especially this first episode.
Yeah, it was mostly just
establishing new characters, the general vibe of what's going on. I think the one thing I will say, obviously, I know Jodie Whittaker was marketed as this being her first audio project. Like, if you're going into it with the expectation of it being that, you might be a little bit disappointed, because Jodie's not really in it that much, so far at least.
Yeah, I was never expecting her to be that big a presence in it anyway. But yeah, she's just kind of like, I assume she's just going to be like treacles throughout here and there.
It didn't bother me, but I know for a fact, like, it might bother some, because I know that, like, I think Radio Times, or one of those, or Screen or something, said it was like, new Jodie Whittaker Doctor Who audios. It's like, they're not really that.
It's like, it's technically true, but at the same time, if you're going into it thinking this is going to be like a 13th Doctor story, then
you're
probably going to be a little disappointed.
Yeah. That's the only thing I would say about it. And I don't see it as a bad thing, because I think the story they tell on its own is good enough. I don't mind. But I'm just saying, if you want 13th Doctor...
I guess similarly, even just like Love and Monsters, like, going into that expecting a 10th Doctor story, it's more about the side characters.
Yeah, that's a good
Doctor.
way of describing it. I think it's just it was just the way it was marketed by other people, not even the BBC, just other people, I think, that might give off the wrong impression. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure, if you are going to listen to it, don't go in thinking like, oh yes, we're going to get new 13th Doctor stories. Like, it's not really that. But yeah, I think that's about everything. But yeah, overall, really enjoyed it. Thought it was really... it really surprised me with its relative quality. Especially because it's BBC Sounds doing an audio thing and not Big Finish. Because that was another thing I was a bit like, oh, it's BBC Sounds. Obviously I don't know much about BBC Sounds, like, other than, like, you can listen to the radio on it. Yeah, I'm not... But, like, so when that was announced, I was like, oh, we're not Big Finish, BBC Sounds, maybe it's not as good. And surprisingly, no, it was really good quality and well done. And
I mean, speaking about Doctors getting more content on audio...
Yes. Do you want to...
The recent announcement of Joe Martin switching over to Big Finish.
As well as Sacha Dhawan, as well.
Sacha Dhawan as well, yeah.
So, with this, like, I covered it sort of very... Not briefly, but I did read the article on a live stream a few sort of weeks back. Not weeks back, days back. I don't keep track of time. Like... To be honest, ever since COVID happened, the whole concept of time has kind of just gone out the window for me, and I've never got it back.
Yeah.
Oh, it's nearly May now. Okay. Anyway, so I covered it extremely briefly in the live stream, but I want to talk about more generally, like, this is a really good thing, because...
Yeah. I'm surprised.
Oh yeah, you go on.
I'm surprised that I was just going to say I'm surprised it's been announced as soon as it is, because they usually wait until an era's done, and it is making me a little bit skeptical. Just in the sense that Chibnall really didn't have an end goal for the Fugitive Doctor.
We'll be talking about that soon, John. Don't you worry. With a certain other thing that came out recently, but. That's cool.
Yeah, but let's talk about the good news.
Let's talk about the good news. Before it gets depressing and angry, let's talk about the positives. So I said, I've been on record as saying the Fugitive Doctor and the Sacha Dhawan Master are my two favourite characters in the Chibnall era, and they're the two shining beacons of hope in an otherwise relatively dull era for me. So to see that these guys are getting new stories by new writers is just a really, really good thing for me.
Yeah.
And I hope that this is a sign that soon Jodie is going to be getting the same treatment. I imagine it is. They've already got the rights to Ruth and Sasha. I assume they're just waiting for Jodie to properly have regenerated before they start doing it, because I imagine that is a stipulation.
Yeah, I assume she'll probably have a break from the role as well. I assume she'll probably have a few years break if she does.
Yeah.
But I feel like Jodie is one of the actors that is more likely to do Big Finish.
Yeah, and I feel like I want to see her do big. Unironically, I'm not a big fan of the 30th Doctor, but I want to see other writers interpret this character. I want to see if I can can see what the fans of this era see, but written by someone else, because under Chibnall, I don't see it, and I don't think I ever will. But maybe under someone else, I might be more inclined to like the character more than I do. So that's my hope.
Yeah.
And I think...
Yeah, because Big Finish have done that with a lot of their Doctors that haven't necessarily been taken to as well.
Well, I mean, look at the Sixth Doctor.
On screen.
I mean,
the Sixth Doctor's had the biggest glow up on audio.
Yeah.
His Doctor is great. Because he completes his character arc. It's his character arc he was supposed to be kind of a 12 in a way of he does start off as a bit kind of angry, aggressive or whatever. By the end, he's one of the nicest Doctors you could see.
But they never let him. They never let him play it out. So
yeah.
But I will say, I've always thought Colin's era is a little underrated. But I would agree that I think his Big Finish stuff. I really like how they portray him over there, and I think they could do wonders with Jodie. Honestly, I think they could do absolute wonders with that character. I think maybe they could reframe some of the more problematic elements of her characterization as a new part of the
I mean they did.
I don't know,
I mean they even do that with the 10th Doctor and some of his stories. The 10th Doctor's thing of always having to save people, despite it being their choice or whatever.
Yeah. On
the inverse, because I know people call it.
Oh yeah, no, you go on.
Yeah. I've lost my point. You can.
I was going to say on the inverse, 13's too fine to not save people and just sort of run away.
Yeah.
So maybe they could play with that a bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm really happy these are happening. When the announcement hit, I was like, oh, that is actually really cool. I will probably listen to both of these. Especially with Ruth as well, because as much as
because
I like Sasha, obviously, we have had quite a bit of his Master content, and the Master for me is one of those characters. I plan on doing a full video on this in the future. The Master's one of those characters that I feel's kind of lost a lot of we've kind of told a lot of the stories that can be told with the Master at this point.
I think that's why with Big Finish I particularly took to the War Master box set. I think that was one of the first just solo Master box sets they did. And what I really liked about that is it kind of took the Doctor out of the equation, and we just saw the Master, essentially just, go for the universe, being, essentially taking on the role of the Doctor, but just doing mastery stuff.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. It was oh, okay, this is quite new. And and I like this. I like seeing the Master, with the new dynamic that isn't just, hey, look, it's the Doctor and the Master again.
It's looking the new Sasha one's going to be a similar type of thing, I imagine, because
I think the Missy one is does similar stuff.
So I imagine this might be similar, but obviously for Sasha. It's said that I believe the Fugitive Doctor stuff takes place after Fugitive June, which I'm fine with.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm fine. I do hope that maybe later down the line we do delve. But then again, I suppose it's a bit more uncharted territory.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
But I think...
I guess the thing is with Fugitive, I suppose it's a similar thing with the 8th Doctor for Big Finish, or even War, where it's they can kind of do whatever they want with this character.
Yeah.
Which I'm really excited about.
They aren't going to do anything when they're in the show at this point, so they might as well. Like,
yeah.
it's one of them things I'm really like happy it's happening, and I think with the Roof Doctor especially, it's like there is so much you can do with that character, and like Joe Martin,
we know very little about her. Yeah, she's such a brilliant actress, and it's like she's just not been used in the show.
Yeah, so I'm glad
it's such a missed opportunity.
I am glad they're giving her the opportunity to basically show off her chops as the Doctor. My only wish is that the TV show would have done more with her, and they'd have considered the optics of making, the first POC woman to play the Doctor a cameo role, essentially. Like, that does still not pass the vibe check for me. That is still weird.
It is pretty cool that Dom's producing them.
Yes, big man Dominic G. Martin.
It's pretty pog.
Legend. We love Dom. We love you, Dom. I don't know whether he does.
Because I know before this became a reality, he did speak out about he'd love to do that. Yeah.
So I'm really glad they've got him to do it, and I think actually that's one of the things that like has given me confidence that this is going to be good. Like, obviously Dom's I think like one of the producers on it or something, but like. It seems like they're getting the right people involved with this character.
Yeah, who can do this character justice.
Who have a passion for the character and who can take her to some interesting places. Because it is one of those, like... Because you don't really have any baggage with... Obviously, there's the whole where does she come in the timeline, but seeing as Chibnall doesn't even know...
I think you can ignore that, to be honest, and just tell Doctor stories with this new incarnation.
Yeah.
I feel like they're probably going to ignore a lot of the Timeless Children stuff.
Yeah.
In Big Finish and just be like, okay, this is this Doctor now just going off, having adventures, doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Maybe stuff might come up, but I feel like they're more going to focus on her character and establishing her incarnation.
Something I did wonder was, are they going to, I guess, make reference to the fact that will Ruth remember the events of, like, Meeting 13? Because the show gives conflicting answers on whether that's a thing that can happen or not, because... With Day of the Doctor, like, they can't retain, like, the War Doctor can't retain the events of Day of the Doctor. But then, in things like the Two Doctors, the Second Doctor remembers stuff, and in, like, Time Crash, the whole plot is, oh, I remembered doing that when I was you, so when I did this, I knew what to do, like, you know what I mean? So, they give conflicting answers on that, so...
Yeah.
I'm not sure...
I always just saw it of, like, they only remember when they're in other multi-Doctor scenarios?
Right. Okay.
But I'm not 100% sure. Like, yeah, it doesn't quite work.
I'm just curious whether they're whether she's going to reference, like, 13 at any point, or, like, what was all that about,
I can see it being somewhat standalone.
Yeah.
I feel like it'll mostly just trying to be like, okay, this is who this character is.
I'm just wondering
this
if
is
they were
what
going
she's
to do
about.
anything with, like, the timing.
I could see them doing some Division-based stuff.
Yeah.
To be honest, because I feel like that was quite interlinked with her story.
I mean, the Division does make a reappearance in Flux, which is after Fugitive they're doing, so logically it would make sense for her to, like, bump into the Division. Yeah, there's a lot you could do with the Roof Doctor. Like, I'd love to see, when there's a load of villains, I'd love to see the Roof Doctor up against, like... I'd love to see any Doctor against the Cybermen, I always love seeing the Cybermen anyway. But, I haven't listened to it yet, but I want to listen to the Ninth Doctor's Cyberman ones, because, we hadn't seen the Ninth Doctor's take on the Cybermen before. So I'm,
they are good.
I'm definitely down for that. Yeah, I'm really hyped for it. Joe Martin deserves it. I do wish they'd done more with her in the show, but if audio is what we're going to get, then I'm happy that, like, the right people are doing it. And I'm happy it's happening. So yeah, that's basically where I'm at with it.
Based.
Was there anything else? I guess, with the Master ones, I'm kind of like, I'm sure they'll be great too. I have less to say because, like, the Master's been a lot more explored.
It's not that we're not excited for the Master ones, it's more just... With Jo, she felt like a very, like a big, like, missed opportunity within the show. It's like, Sasha did get content, at least.
Sasha had quite a bit of content. Because, like, if you think about it, obviously, John Sim got the 3-parter, but he was only really at the very end of Utopia. He got that, he got End of Time in his original run, and then I guess he got the Capaldi story as well. Sasha, in a very short time, has had the Spyfall 2-parter, the Timeless Children, that one. I swear there's another one, or am I making that up?
That might.
It feels like there's more Sasha content.
Yeah, I agree. Like,
I don't know whether that makes sense. It just
the Centenary special.
Well, we've got the upcoming Centenary. So Sasha's had plenty of content. Not that I'm opposed to seeing him in more.
I think it's maybe because the Timeless Children is literally just him in a room for like
talking,
an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that's why it feels like there's more than there actually
Possibly.
is.
I think it's also the fact that like a lot of them are quite close together, so you have, in a very short span of time, you have Spyfall Part 1 and Spyfall Part 2, and then essentially the Cybermen Timeless Children. Like, so that's 4 episodes where he appears in the same series, so I suppose it could feel like, oh wow, it's the Master.
Yeah.
Especially because, you know, now we get 10 episodes, so if a character appears in 4 episodes, they've appeared in almost half of the episodes of the series. Yeah, I'm excited for the Master as well, but it's a combination of, we've already seen quite a bit of Sasha, plus the Master. I think as a character, there is less you can do, but I am excited to see what they do.
Yeah, I'm excited what Big Finish can do with them, and hopefully they can take him in an interesting and new direction.
Absolutely. So yeah, what do we want to talk about next? Are we going to address the elephant?
I suppose, because that's the only other thing that I can remember
It's the
that we had on
logical
our
thing
list.
to address next, I guess.
Yeah.
But before we do, just please subscribe. I'm just trying to delay the inevitable.
I was wondering where you were going with that. I was like,
I'm
yes,
just trying to
please
delay
subscribe.
the inevitable of talking about.
Also subscribe to the Jean-Luc Harry YouTube channel.
And subscribe to Theories, even though it's probably where like 90% of you came from. If any of you follow me, you'll know I've had quite some reactions to Chibnall's recent interview for Doctor Who magazine, which was recently released, yesterday.
What, really? Have you?
Yeah, I don't know whether you knew this.
I didn't know. I didn't even think you'd seen it, man.
No,
that's crazy.
It's mad, isn't it? Don't get me wrong. There's some things about the interview that like have given me quite a bit of respect for the guy and for the production. You know, most notably, and I think something a lot of people have picked up on, the timeless child idea came from his real life experience of being an adopted person, which, you know, is a really cool idea for a story. And I think using that is a good idea. My only wish is they'd have like done more with that, but I do have a lot of other issues with the interview. Now, this one, I will say, I think I've calmed down towards this one slightly, but the first one obviously is he didn't have a plan or like any sort of real idea of what to do with the show when he came in.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest because like everyone always spoke about Chibnall's 5-year plan, which I know was just a comment his friend made.
Yeah, to be fair, like, he didn't say that himself, so I'm not going to hold that against him too much. People have said, you know, it's not inherently a bad thing to come up with the idea as you're there, but like, it is also just kind of like, how can you be a fan since the 1980s and get the job of showrunner and have no idea what to do with it until, like, that does feel odd to me.
It's really strange how you can go into a show like Doctor Who and not have any ideas.
Yeah, because like, I mean, to be fair to him, he does say in the interview, like, oh, I did have some old sort of shards of ideas kicking about, but I didn't want to use them because, you know, I wanted to go at it all fresh. I think that's in the Series 11 portion.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, all you had was shards of... I know for most fans, right, you fantasize for years about what you do with Doctor Who. Like, it's a staple of Doctor Who content, Doctor Who fandom.
Yeah, I mean, we've been through, like, our own, like, fan series ideas and stuff.
Yeah,
we might even do an episode on it in the future.
It would be good.
Yeah.
But... So to hear someone who's been a fan since like the 80s go, yeah, I had no real idea of what to do with this. It's like, okay,
yeah,
it's not the most reassuring thing, I'll be honest. And also the fact that like it does kind of make some of the Chibnall era make more sense. In that there's so many like little threads in the Chibnall era that just never get picked up on again, and to me it is a sign of somewhat poor planning. You know, remember when?
Yeah, I mean,
like, the Ghost Monument?
I mean, it is exactly that. So, I mean, it's not even like it's by definition poor planning. He didn't have a plan. He made it up as he went along. That is poor planning.
It's like the whole thing.
That is no planning, actually.
In like, for example, Ghost Monument, when they make a big deal at the Stenza race, and watch out for the Stenza, and then nothing really came of that. And then again...
Yeah, we only saw Tim Shaw come back. Like, I was always expecting, like, oh, are we going to see, like, a Stenza war
that's what it
or something?
Implies. Like, that's what all the build-up in Ghost Monument implies, and then it just doesn't happen. And you're left wondering, did something get cut? Like...
Can't wait for them to show up in the Centenary, just rock up with the Cybermen and the Daleks and the Master.
I would genuinely burst out laughing. Like, if they did that,
same.
I would just be like, fair play, Chibnall. You've completely lost all credibility, but fair play.
No. What it is, Tim Shaw turns up. He's like, "Oh, Doctor, you've been naive," and he just pulls off his like toothpaste, and it's the Master. Like, jeez. What?
No, now you've said that, like, it wouldn't even surprise me if that happened. Like, Chibnall can't surprise me anymore. I'm just as accepting of his, like, mad bollocks that he does with no logic. It's like, hey, you want to bring C. Tegan again? Like, fine. What? Where did this come from?
Yeah.
What was the...
That's the only thing that I can see from like him being a fan previously making sense. Where I'm like, okay, right, yeah, he was a fan of that era. He's brought her back because it was something he grew up with, I guess.
And then like, the thing that infuriated me the most about the interview was that he basically said, "Oh yeah, I don't know where the Doctor's from, and I don't know where the Ruth Doctor fits in," and it's like,
I get, yeah.
And he's basically the whole point was to add in mystery, so that kind of implies you're not going to get like a full-on answer to the Timeless Child, and it's like, I get that people. The thing is, right, I don't like the Timeless Child as a concept, but if you are going to do it, do something with it. Don't just introduce it and then go, anyway, because like that's essentially what they've done. And it's like, why?
You can't set something up solely to have as being mysterious and being a big mystery if you don't then have a conclusion to that mystery. Because at that point, you're just jangling keys and it means nothing.
The thing is as well,
it's like, why do it?
There's ways of introducing mystery Doctor Who without doing this. And I just wonder, like, why was it this? Do you know what I mean?
It's not added any mystery. The problem is, like, what has really changed other than you now know the Doctor had a mother?
If anything, that's like, made us more aware of the Doctor's past, which...
Yeah, it's just like, oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, we don't know which planet she's from anymore, but, like, who cares?
Yeah, but, like, going forward, she's always still going to be...
She's always going to be referred to as a Time Lord anyway, so who cares? I think what gets to me as well is that people go on about, defending Chibnall and saying he knows what he's doing, he knows what he's doing. And that's been something that's been said for years. So to have him essentially come out and go, yeah, I don't know. It's just like, oh, so I was right. There wasn't a plan to this. It was just random bollocks. And I wasn't going insane for thinking that. It's like, because the guy himself has practically admitted it.
It's so mad to me that Series 11 being like a whole fresh slate, like all new monsters, like just that was what I was expecting from Chibnall's Who, and like it's so strange to me that like the 13th Doctor has had the most like recurring like villains.
Yeah, because someone made the point.
It's madness. It's madness.
Can You Hear Me? We haven't had like an original villain. Like we haven't had an episode rather without a past villain returning. That's mental.
Yeah, when your entire first series is all new creations, to then still somehow be the Doctor that has the most returning.
Even Can You Hear Me has like, they're basically Eternals.
They reference back to...
So you could make that argument that they are as well. So it's just like...
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, it's fine. But like, what I'm basically saying is the fact that it's been so long without an episode with a recurring villain is actually like mental. And I'll be honest, I might get flack for this, but honestly, the Chibnall era feels more insular than the Moffat era did. Because at least with the Moffat era, I felt like it was trying to do new stuff with the lore. Chibnall's stuff is like, hey, remember this? And then you just move on. It's like...
Yeah.
Oh.
It annoys me, especially in Series 12, because it does just feel like it's relying a lot on what we already know.
It's like, I was talking to Confused Adipose the other day, and he watched Legend of the Sea Devils with his family. And when the next time trailer came on, he was getting all hyped for ACT, and as we all were.
Yeah.
And his family were just staring at him blankly, being like, who are they? And it's like, this is the problem with Chibnall Doctor Who. They don't do a good enough job at re-establishing these things, so it just comes across as random cameos for the sake of it.
It's not like a Sarah Jane, where it's like, you have her in an episode, you set her up, and then she comes back later. This is we're just dropping in names from like 30, 40 years ago and just expecting
the reason Sarah Jane
people
worked
to be excited
was because you could understand who she was as a person without having seen the classic show. Okay, she's someone who's travelled with the Doctor in the past. She's obviously very close to the Doctor, had a very similar dynamic, sort of, what Rose has, essentially, having that sort of idolisation of the Doctor. It makes sense without having to have seen the classic show. And then they build on the dynamic, and they have her basically feed into Rose's whole arc of like, yeah, he leaves you eventually. And that's a whole arc for Rose. Whereas, at least so far, with Chibnall's returning characters, it's like, yeah, we're here. And that's it.
What, did you not like the bit in School Reunion when the 10th Doctor first sees Sarah and he's like, Sarah Jane, journalist, and just starts listing off everything that she was.
Yeah, it's just... And he
used to travel with me, but I just...
Remember when Kate Stewart just went, oh, I'm Kate Stewart. And then we move
Yeah.
on, and it's like, you're not establishing these
Whoa.
characters properly. That's why it feels so hollow when you do it. Like, it feels so empty.
It's why I'm not like I put out a video today like speaking about just why I'm not excited about the centenary.
I think
because it is just putting shit in front of our faces and expecting us to like clap and give it a pat on the back because oh, you're bringing back this thing. Okay, but it's just another thing, a mountain of shit.
Oh god, well you've got more negative than I have. Jeez, I was like,
yeah,
damn, you've really,
I'm fed up.
You've really gone for. I mean, I'm not completely.
Once I've torn down all the other podcasts, I'm coming for you, Chibnall. You don't. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. Chibnall. No. We were saying before the podcast, it's like Chibnall's a right guy, and like he has definitely got too much shit.
Yeah, no. As a person, the stuff that Chibnall got is like ridiculous, but I also do think Chibnall's work kind of gets treated with kiddie gloves by some of the fandom. Because I think of how like the NMDs are, people are like, oh, I'm going to try and like this as best I can and make excuses for it and whatever, but like, I think we're at the point now where it's very difficult to excuse some of the things that like he does and his writing choices. Like fun fact, you know when we had Ivy on last, obviously you do, but I'm talking about the audience, like, Ivy is like a 13th Doctor stan. When we got Ivy on, it was under the pretense that like, oh, she was going to be the positive sort of voice behind this episode. And then we got her on and we were all just like, yeah, this was a bit bad. Even fans of this era started to be a bit like, what is this?
The thing is, we're not saying that like, if you did like Legends of Sea Devils or you do enjoy this era, that like you're less of a fan or you like, I don't know, you're not on our level. You know, anything stupid like that. It's like we all like and appreciate different things.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like people make excuses for Chibnall where they wouldn't be made for other showrunners. Like, Moffat in particular, I feel like there's a lot of people who, you know, really went in on Moffat back in the day, and then when Chibnall makes, like, the same mistakes, they're just like, you know? And it's like...
Yeah.
You realise this is almost the same thing. Like, and it's... Yeah, no, but the interview itself, what were we saying about it before we went onto the fan base tangent?
It was bad.
It wasn't a bad interview. It did give me like you know, some genuine insight.
To be fair, I haven't actually read the interview.
Okay.
I just got the general gist of it and people speaking about it. Yeah, from
and it
Twitter.
did give me like an appreciation for how hard it was to do like the series on a Cohen and stuff.
Yeah,
but
I will go off and read the interview like once we're done recording because I feel like my perception of it might be a little bit
by others.
Skewed. Yeah.
It's the sort of thing...
Because a lot of it was just people bashing it on Twitter and obviously taking the worst bits of it. So if I've come off quite negatively, I think it's just because I've seen like the worst bits and I'm like, come on, Chibnall, really?
But it is also just kind of like...
Really, man?
There's no way to dress up the fact that he's got no answer for the Timeless Child or anything. And that's what he's been, like, leading people along with for years. And it's like, what was the point? You know? Like...
Yeah.
No, it's... Discussing Chibnall Doctor Who is really frustrating because he does have some decent ideas, but...
Yeah, even if there was a payoff and it was like one of the worst payoffs ever, I would have at least respected it because I'm like, okay, you've wrapped up this story.
But I think if there's no payoff, or at least very little payoff to the Timeless Child, which honestly I see being the reality, I can imagine even 13th Doctor fans being like, what the fuck? What the fuck?
It's a weird one though, because it's one that you don't want a definitive answer on either way at the same time.
But then it's kind of like, if you don't give a definitive answer, then what was the point?
It's like I think with the roof stuff and the fob watch, them not getting an answer would just seem like a fuck you. I think Timeless Children you can be a bit lenient with. I think it's just the fact. I think it's just the fact they made such a massive thing of it. Like that was the entire series arc for essentially all of series 12 and even 13 to that.
Davis summarised my feelings towards it on Twitter. He said, still waiting for the first chucklefuck to purposely miss the point and try and say, I thought you guys didn't want a Doctor origin. We don't. But what else is your era offering at this point? It's like, yeah, I agree. It's like, I don't want to know the Doctor's origins, but when your entire era is being hinged on that, if you don't follow it up, what was the point?
I know you're not that big a fan of like series 11, but it's like I would have rather just had 3 series 11s, like just completely standalone.
At least they'd have been like inoffensive and
yeah, that would have been its own thing, and it would have been fresh. That would have been like, okay, yeah, this is like.
I mean, they're kind of weak, but new. You know, at least they're not.
Some of series 11 is.
I mean, we kind of.
demons that takes you away are pretty great.
Anyway, though, yeah.
You're just mean.
Yeah, maybe I am. But it's the sort of thing where it's like, I agree with Davis. Like, you can't make that the entire point of your era and then not do anything with it. And, like, I don't want to be mean, but I do feel like Chibnall era fans are very easily pleased. Or at the very least from what I've seen, like, Legend of the Sea Devils, I honestly think they could have done anything with Thasmin and people would have, like, said it was a great episode.
I think it's just that thing of, like, people watch the show for different reasons, though.
Yeah, that
like,
is true.
I'm not gonna, like...
But I almost feel like the only people watching anymore are either Doctor Who reviewers or, like, stans. Like, they're the only people left at this point who actually care. And as a result, all of the timeline for any given episode is either, oh my god, Thasmin, or... man, this was shit.
I think Stan Twitter's just like that.
No,
so,
yeah.
Like, they'll always, like... That's always been a thing. They'll get attached to the ships. Like, I think... Wasn't that something they did actually mention in the Chibnall interview?
Yes.
Like, a little bit different to what Matt Stevens said, and Chibnall sort of said that it was kind of always in the works.
He said it wasn't planned, but he said once Series 11 had aired and they looked back on scenes like in Arachnids in the UK, it was like, oh, okay, I kind of... see this, maybe play around with it.
Yeah, that's sort of what I always thought anyway. Like, I always thought Series 11 was its own thing. I think from like the special onwards, they did kind of lean into it.
I still don't think the arc's been done that well, if I'm being honest. I know a lot of people will disagree with me there. I think a lot of it, for me personally, is kind of invented in people's heads. Like, what's actually there in the text.
Oh, yeah. That's the thing, though. It's like, when you latch onto an idea that you like, though, it's very common. Like, I'm guilty of it as well. Like, you do kind of get attached to that idea and you run with it in your head and you start, like, making the connections and all that. So, like, I'm not going to hold people up for that.
Yeah.
Because, like, okay, you're invested in this thing.
But then it is, like, at the same time... You know, you can't get mad.
I think it's been fine. I don't think it's been handled.
At the same time, you can't get mad when people don't see the things that you've made up in your head. Like, it's the sort of thing where it's like they say in the Chibnall interview, the first actual like acknowledgement of it in the text is in Haunting Ability to Die. It's the first time.
Yeah.
And it was actually Maxine Alderton's suggestion to put it in. She was like, "Oh yeah, I'll put this in," and Chibnall agreed and. Like, that was the first time you could say, okay, maybe there was a plan for this, or maybe, like, they were going to do something with it. Before then, no.
I mean, yeah, I would say from there, because it goes that, Revolution of the Daleks, maybe the hologram thing, and then some bits
like,
of Flux.
I think...
Oh, no, I guess not Flux, but...
It still feels rushed, but I'm willing to buy it from Yaz's end. The Doctor's end, I don't buy as much. I don't buy... I mean, I buy that, like, they don't want to get attached because of, you know, death and... danger and whatever. That's a tried and tested Doctor fear.
Yeah.
So that's not something that I am against. What I am against, though, is the idea that the Doctor reciprocates, and the reason I'm against that is because, well, Jodie's kind of been the most asexual Doctor of any of, like, the New Who incarnations.
Yeah.
So it feels like a bit of a about turn for her to have these romantic feelings.
It could just be that thing of, like, maybe she was just suppressing them. I don't know. This is just me trying to then fill in blanks. But I do completely get that of, like, yeah, she has kind of come off as, like, yeah, a much more asexual Doctor.
She just hasn't seemed interested in anything.
But then again,
like
I guess ace romantic is a thing, though.
I suppose it's just
like romantically, like...
I suppose it's just, like, she feels so opposed to anything romantic or, like, you know, sort of emotional in an early series, then to have her all of a sudden be like...
I suppose it's that thing as well, like a lot of, like, ace romantic relationships as well, though. It's usually... The bond is formed just over time kind of thing. It is kind of like... You need to really know someone before you actually open up.
That's not really in the text, though. Like...
No. Yeah, no. That is just me filling in.
Filling
I am just essentially doing...
But I think that's the problem. I think that's the problem with a lot of a Chibnall era. Fans shouldn't be left to fill this much in. Like...
Yeah, I think that's just my reading of it. But the thing is, I also wouldn't want them to explicitly like spell that out to me at the same time.
Well, I think there's a balance, isn't there? There's a balance between this is this and making it feel organic whilst referencing it. Like, I'll say again, like, Rose and Ten's dynamic, whether you like that dynamic or not, it's very obvious it's there. And, like, they don't say, I'm in love with you. Well, I mean, they kind of do at the end, but, like...
Yeah, I hate how that carried over to Series 3.
Yeah, but that's...
Just the 10.
Besides
10
that, like, my point is, you can say what you want about the actual character dynamics themselves, but you can't deny it's written well. Like, you totally believe, yeah, these are basically a couple, and, like, the way that like, their whole banter and the way that they interact with each other and how they view each other, it's very believable. Whereas I don't really get that vibe with most of the Jodie Whittaker and, like, Yaz stories at all. I just don't see that connection there, but maybe it is just me. But yeah, that was something that was referenced. I'm happy for the people that, like, got it canonized, if it was important. But it does just sort of feel like another example of something not being planned and then retroactively crammed in for points, almost.
I don't have that much of a problem.
I don't have a problem. I'm just kind of like, it's just another example of something not being planned, which is kind of one of my biggest...
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. But I feel like I could say that with a lot of, like, TV relationships.
I suppose, yeah. I'm just kind of, like, sick of things feeling like they've been made up on the spot.
Yeah, especially when Chibnall has, like, come out and said
that's what's happened.
That is kind of, yeah.
You know, I just miss, like, a showrunner having a relative, like, cohesive vision and, like, somewhat knowing what they want to do properly. And, like, obviously I know COVID changed Flux, fair enough. You know, you can have that. But it still doesn't excuse the fact that in Series 11 and 12 they feel so starkly different from each other. And it's like, there's no connective tissue between the two.
Chibnall wrote, like, 3 completely different... like takes on Doctor Who.
Which is why when people say,
they all feel completely disconnected.
Chris Chibnall era's Doctor Who vibe, I'm like, I genuinely don't know what his vibe for his era even is, to be honest. Because like each series almost feels like its own era.
I feel like Series 12 and 13 feel similar.
Yeah.
To Series 11, because Series 11 just does feel like its own little thing. It's
Series
weird.
11 Chibnall and Series 12 and 13 Chibnall do feel like 2 different eras of Doctor Who. Like, it's so bizarre. And yeah, I'm really sad because there are some ideas in the era that I'm like, this is a really cool idea. Such as Joe Martin Roof Doctor. You know, that casting is brilliant. Such as things like having, you know, a theme of found family for the Doctor. Again, a great idea. So many of them just don't get capitalised on. And I think part of that is just that they didn't plan for it. And I think crucially, that's just why this era feels so wrong to me.
It's partly not planning for it, but also not dedicating enough time to each, like, particular theme. A lot of the time, and it's even prevalent within the, like, centenary coming up, is Chibnall just seems to then add more stuff on.
It's almost like...
And then you don't have the time to focus on the actual interesting or important.
He feels like he needs to hide the ideas he can't develop properly. So as a compensator for that, he shoves more on top, and I hope that you won't notice that half of it's not...
But that's almost like him shooting himself.
Yeah. This is the thing with Chibnall. He makes his life more difficult. They make reference in the article to how difficult filming Flux was in the pandemic because of all the different characters and stuff. It's like, well, why did you write a series with so many characters then? And like so many moving elements?
Especially when you could cut like half of the characters out of it.
You'd probably have made it easier for the audience to follow and the crew to shoot. So it sort of comes across like Chibnall, like, why are you like this? I just don't fully understand this man. Like,
Chibnall is a confusing man.
I think he's a lovely guy, but I the more I've thought about it, the more I'm just not sure he was the right choice. Looking back at it,
I feel like in everyone's head it was like, oh, he's like a really safe choice. He's like the safest
guy. I would argue,
like, you know, Chibnall.
Like the Chibnall era has been like the most turbulent to be a fan. Like, it's bizarre. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, it's because he cast a woman. It's like, yeah, don't get me wrong, that was part of it initially.
Chibnall has had a lot of, like, obstacles. Like, he had that whole thing. Series 11 didn't do that great towards the end. He had COVID. He had the time with children. Like, some of it was his own doing.
Let's not pretend he didn't put some of them there himself. Yeah, I was just going to say, like, let's not pretend.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, he has probably had, like, one of the hardest, like, at least production-wise, working on the show.
I really do sympathise with, like, the whole COVID.
Because I was going to say, it's like, Moffat got, like, a lot of shit. Russell got a lot of shit as well. But I do feel like Chibnall's, it was kind of ramped up.
Probably. I mean...
It was because I feel like with Moffat, it was more, a lot of criticism towards the show. I feel like with Chibnall, it was a lot more personal attacks to the actresses
People could
involved.
Get quite personal with Moffat. You know, I remember there being...
I don't know, no one was like telling like, oh, I hope Capaldi dies.
Not Capaldi, but I know there were Moffat death threats.
Well, yeah, but you see all like the
I think Jodie's been like treated worse than any Doctor, and like, you know, like some of the stuff that like NMDs have done where they like photoshopped her onto like weird bodies and all this shit, like that's just gross.
Yeah.
But I think as a showrunner, I think it's a weird one. I think he has been treated worse and he hasn't at the same time. Like, it's a weird middle point.
It's essentially just an evolution of the same shit.
Yeah, I just hope that it's a bit calmer for Russell. I hope. But then I feel like
You know that
there's
it
going to be
won't be.
people being deliberate contrarians in the next year. I can already see it happening. Like, the most people are going to be like, oh, this is really good. And there's going to be one arsehole being like, actually, I think it was shit. Chibnall who forever. And then everyone else is going to be like, what the fuck? You know that's going to happen. It's already started happening. Have you noticed how people have already started, like, making tweets being like, actually, this Russell era episode was bad. Like, it's already started happening.
Yeah, but I feel like that's always been a thing.
Yeah,
like,
but I think it has
Russell
wrapped
have
up
been
since
bad.
the announcement. I think it has wrapped up.
Maybe. I don't know. Because I know that, like, people like to go back on those episodes and pick up on stuff that's, like, maybe a little bit iffy, is aged a bit poorly. Stuff like the Shakespeare Code is obviously aged quite poorly.
Yeah, well,
Gareth
the thing
Roberts'
is...
inclusion in that. Like, there are definitely lines and themes from the Russell era that's, like, yeah, some of it hasn't
But it's
aged
the same
particularly
time,
well.
it was, like, 2005.
Yeah, I know. And to be fair, a lot of the, like, problematic, especially, like, connections to the writers and some of the actors involved as well.
But it's
that hadn't come out.
In the actual show, though, like, I think it's aged pretty well, considering... I think people forget how old Russell Who is. Like, it's like, what? The show was revived, like, 17 years ago, right?
Oh yeah. I'm not. Yeah, obviously. It's the same thing though. It's like going back and criticizing the Talons of Wing Chiang. It's like perfectly valid to criticize that and the racism. That was bad. Like, no one's saying that it's not bad, but it's like you can still view it as a good story.
But yeah, there's basically been a little bit of a drama on Twitter about, like, human nature actually being bad because John Smith falls in love with a racist, even though said racist gets views of, like, challenged, and it's 1912 or 13 or whatever. What were you expecting? Like,
I've seen this resurface a few times.
Yeah, this isn't
like,
the first time it's resurfaced, but it's just
yeah.
I've been getting involved because it's the sort of thing where it's like, look, if you don't like racism being portrayed like that in media, fair enough. But, like, it's the sort of thing where if you don't address it, it does come across as odd. Like, it comes across as odd in the Shakespeare Code, where the Doctor essentially goes, you'll be fine. It's like, what? I don't think that's how that works. And I'd much rather have the human nature approach where they treat it realistically and show that, this was a bad thing in the past.
Yeah, it's that thing. It's like, the Doctor as a character has always been a character that has been tolerant of racism, even if he doesn't necessarily agree with it. And you could disagree with that, but like 100%, like having to like travel through time and space, because he would just be beating up everyone. If that was the case. I think when you think of Thin Ice, he was pushed.
You've got to remember as well,
and he reacted.
With human nature is John Smith, not the Doctor. They are fundamentally two different characters as well. And with Joan Redgrave, I don't think she's I don't think she's consciously racist. I think, she is consciously racist, but what I'm trying to say is, it's because of how she's been raised and the society in which she occupies. Once she's challenged on it, she bends really quickly. And I think, I think it is the reality. People who are bigoted, they're not born like it. They're not supervillains. There are things that lead to them being like that. Doesn't mean that they're good people or good actions. That's not what the point is. But the point is, you can't just... I think it's one of my issues with Rosa. They basically treat racism or bigotry as something only evil people do, and it's like, that's not really how it works in real world. Like...
Yeah, but the thing is with Rosa though, like, I don't know. I can see how this got you into like drama. To be fair.
Well, yeah, no,
because like
it's
much more of an effort. Yeah, the thing is like. The thing with human nature is that wasn't a story about racism. That just happened to have racist characters.
Yeah.
Rosa is very much fundamentally centered around racism and of the time, and painting that in a way that's like Rosa Parks and what she did, was a very like big and important stance. I don't think they're like comparable.
Well, I think it's the sort of thing. The only reason I compared the two was like, they're like, oh, the Doctor allowed their companion to go like be in a racist era. And it's like, well, Rosa happened, and that is the same thing. And it's like...
You could say that about every time the Doctor goes into the past.
Exactly, but that was my point. It was like, so do you just not want past Doctor Who stories anymore? Like, because that is what you would end up having. If you want to have stories where you go into the past, it's inevitably going to come up as a thing, because that was a thing. And still is a thing.
Yeah.
But it was more of a thing in the past. Like, well, I mean... It's arguably still a big thing now, but it was more of a thing in, like, the 1900s.
Yeah, because it was, like, just socially accepted as, like, a thing in the past. It was, like, the majority thing. Where now we're like, nope, racism bad, actually, and if you believe these things, you're a bit of a twat. Well, you're not a bit of a twat, you just are a cunt.
It's that weird thing, though, of, like, as I said, it's treating racism as if it's something bad people do rather than a belief people have. Like, as in, when I say bad people, I mean, I don't mean it's something, a bad thing people do. I mean, it's just a thing that could, like, be done by bad people. And if you're a good person, you can't do it. Like, no, anyone can be bigoted.
It depends. It's an iffy topic.
It is.
I feel like...
I just think the way...
I suppose if you're racist and you're racist, those are your ongoing beliefs, then I'm not saying you can't change. Like, sure, you can change.
Like, I don't think Nurse Redfern, at least, or whatever her name is, in Human Nature is a good person, at least in the opening, when she's, like, talking to Martha the way she is. But I do think...
But the thing is, John Smith is also a racist character. When the Doctor becomes human, because he buys into the beliefs of the time.
So the commentary there is basically, you are shaped by where you are, kind of thing. Or at least that's part of it. Because, like, if they'd have landed in, I don't know, 3026... probably wouldn't have been a thing as much, would it? But that's not what the story was. The story was they're in 1912. So inevitably, even if you're new to that environment, you're probably going to pick it up. And that's what I mean. Like, bigotry isn't just a bad attitude, it's also a cultural thing.
The thing is, we also didn't really spend time with any of the characters in Rosa, though. Because maybe we would feel similar if there was more of a focus on them, though. Like, I feel like in Rosa, the characters are more just sort of... They're there to paint an atmosphere of the time, as opposed to be these are like
fine.
Actual
I just kind of like characters to be more...
but a lot of them aren't really characters, though. Like, they're more just there to set the tone of the episode, to really ramping up.
That's a fine way of doing it. It's just, I like that Nurse Redfern has more going on than that.
I guess. I don't know. I feel like it is... I get the comparison, but I do think
the only reason
you probably shouldn't compare them.
The comparison was made was because, like I said, like, if you're gonna...
Both are going for completely different things.
Say,
like, one's the focus on the story of Rosa Parks.
Sent their companion to a racist era. It's like, we had an episode, like, a couple of years ago where they went back to Alabama in the 1950s, and it's the sort of thing where it's like... And people have said, like, oh, but the Doctor chooses to go there. Like, no, he doesn't. If you watch the story, the TARDIS picks the destination. The Doctor gets turned into a human, and that's there. It's not a conscious effort.
Yeah.
The Doctor didn't go, I think I'm going to drop Martha off at somewhere racist. Like, no, that's not what happened. Like, it's that bad faith interpretation that just didn't happen in the episode. It just wasn't there. And, like, I'd get it if in the episode they just sort of passively accepted that this is how the world was in 1912. I'd understand the criticism. But literally, like, the most iconic scene, or one of the most iconic scenes in that two-parter is when Martha is listing all the bones in a hand to Nurse Redfern. And the whole point of that scene is basically to challenge this set-in-stone ideology that Nurse Redfern has. So the idea that it's somehow, like, in support of racism is bollocks. Like, the whole point is that it's not.
The only time previously that I've seen people properly call it the story is when the Doctor then invites Joan, like, on board.
But again, it's
I remember that being a thing a few years ago.
I just don't agree with that, though, because... I think the implication that I got was that the reason she was like it was because of the time that she was in, and by meeting Martha, she had her ideology challenged. So, therefore, she was somewhat redeemed. You know, maybe not entirely, but maybe seeing more of the universe would have opened her eyes up more.
I guess, and I suppose, like, the Doctor is also one of those characters that, like...
But then it's also kind of like, at what point do you draw the line? Because, you know... The Doctor's, like, travelled with Scottish Highlanders from, like, the 1500s.
But that's what I was literally just about to say. I was like, sometimes the Doctor, like, they can redeem a lot of people, like, they can change a lot of people's worldviews and, like, the experiences they go through.
They've probably people from, like, Victorian England and stuff like that. It's like, do you think none of them had dodgy beliefs? Like, given the times that they're from? Like, it's naive to say that all the companions... except Nurse Redfern, despite coming from similar time periods, didn't have some dodgy beliefs themselves. They probably did, because that's just how society was then.
We live in a society.
We do live in a society. But yeah, in the end, I think that's about all for this episode, isn't it? Unless there's something else.
I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's a more positive way to round off this episode.
We're excited for audios.
Just ending on a... We are excited for audios. We're excited for the next Redacted.
And the Joe Martin and Sasha ones. So that's good. Like the video, subscribe, all that.
Goodbye, everyone. Please subscribe to the podcast. Check us out on Apple Podcasts and also Spotify.
Yeah.
I don't know why they would now, having listened to the full thing, but
weird, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Follow us on Twitter as well. I don't know. Bye.